Alrighty. All right, cool. So we'll get started with today's topic. So today we're going to be talking about influence and talking about the 6 weapons of influence. So this is actually a book I highly recommend that I read probably 2 to 3 years ago, but it's one that I kind of open up all the time when I'm thinking about a lot of different marketing tactics. The book I'll drop into the channel right now. The book is called Influence. The psychology of, I don't even know how to spell psychology, man. Whoa. I didn't realize. Okay, so psychology of persuasion. Damn, a lot of hard words to spell right there. Geez, this last name. Cialdini. All right, cool. I think that's it. Whatever. You guys will be able to find it. So anyway, just drop the book name. Yep, thank you. But just drop the book name into the Automated Coaching Engine channel. So this is a book that's like, I consider it like a marketing and copywriting Bible for me. It's something that I always refer to with creating ad videos, creating copy for captions, different things like that. And we'll talk about the 6 different weapons of influence and what each of them mean. And then we'll drop into Q&A. So today's training probably won't be too long. I just want to cover these. These are some good points to think about while we're creating content, while we're creating any sort of like marketing material where we're doing, direct call to actions and really making them as effective as possible. So the 6 different weapons of influence are as follows. They are reciprocation, commitment and consistency, social proof, liking, authority, and scarcity. So these are basically weapons of influence, meaning that these are different tactics that you can utilize in order to increase influence with marketing and different aspects of business, right? And anything in life, whether you are trying to get something that you want out of a relationship or whatever the case may be, these are the highest levers of influence that you can pursue in order to make that happen. So this is not only really valid for marketing, but also for sales. So it kind of brings everything together. But let's start with the first weapon, which is probably the most powerful weapon of all. And this is what I want you guys to like really think heavy about with marketing, is reciprocation. So reciprocation, you can kind of think about it as like the Gary Vee concept of give, and then receive, right? So the idea is that when we do something for somebody, they feel obligated to return that favor, right? So it's part of our human nature and it's part of our actual like wiring that if we do something for somebody, we feel that we have, if someone does something for us, we feel like we have to return the favor. So the way that you can think about this with marketing is the concept of like give, and then receive. So how much information can you give out with your content or with your marketing strategy to the point where people feel like obligated and the reciprocation is initiated for them to go ahead and reach back out to you? Like, how much value can you pour out into the marketplace with content and YouTube videos and all these different ideas? How much value can you pour out to the point where people want to come to you? And a lot of times this is what coaches struggle with, is the fact that they feel like if they give out all their information, they're not going to get any clients, when in reality, it's the opposite. You give out all your information and you will get clients, because the information isn't why people work with you. People work with you because of you. People work with a coach because of the accountability, because of the structure, because of the fact that they have exclusive access to somebody who's committed to their journey, right? So understand the fact that like in 2022, anybody in the world has access to any sort of information they want, right? Like in regards to fitness coaching, anybody could search up the workouts on YouTube. They could search out the nutrition plan. They can search up all these things and they can find the information. So access to information is not limited in 2022. You have access to information. The problem is that people don't implement the information because they don't have the accountability and they don't have the support of a coach like you guys, right? So the important thing to think about with the first weapon of influence being reciprocation is the fact that if you give, you will receive. But if you hoard information, nobody's going to view you as an authority. Nobody's going to view you as someone that they want to work with, because ultimately you have to convince them that you have this high level of knowledge that they need access to, not just through the content itself, but also through ultimately wanting to have so much knowledge that they expand and want to reach out to you directly, right? So the reciprocation piece is probably the most important factor of influence for our offers and for coaching, is the fact that if we give, we will receive. But if we hoard information and we keep the information away from those that need it, then we're never going to be able to position ourselves as authorities in our industry, because people just aren't going to see the fact that we know what we're talking about, right? So with reciprocation, to sum it up one last time, that weapon of influence, it's all about give, then receive. If you give somebody something, or if you do something for somebody, it's human nature that they feel obligated to give something back to you, right? So if we pour out information, we serve the community through content, we give all of our strategies away through content, people will come to you. And the strategy, the information is not why people work with you. They work with you for the actual implementation, for the accountability, for all these things, right? So that's the biggest thing that coaches struggle with, is like, well, if I give away all my strategies, then nobody's going to want to work with me. And it's the opposite. The information is available. Anybody in the world has access to the information that you already have. However, the disconnect is accountability and transparency and support. That's why they're not transforming their life. That's why they're not implementing the information. And sure, there will be some people who take in the information and implement it and they don't need you. But that's literally 1% of the population that will ever do that. Like 99% of people, they need the support, they need the accountability, and they need the drive. So the first weapon of influence is reciprocation. Give, you will receive. It's human nature to want to give back to somebody who's giving you something. Now, the second weapon of influence is commitment and consistency. So this aspect is important to think about with any sort of sales process and marketing process, because basically what this states is that humans, when they make a commitment, no matter how small that commitment is, we feel motivated to continue that consistency of commitment. So for instance, right, if you get someone to say yes multiple times on a sales call, like when you're on the sales call, you're continuously saying, does that make sense? Is that clear? Does that sound fair? And they continue to say yes. They are more likely to say yes when you actually present the program, because the commitment and consistency in their brain has now been hardwired for them to say the word yes over the word no, because they've said yes so many times. So this is actually, like, all of these weapons of influence are directly correlated to the human brain and the human consciousness and what we are drawn towards. So commitment and consistency, we want to think about this as, how can we get them to make micro commitments with our marketing that allow us to then, initiate that continuation of commitment. So, for instance, right, if we think about this with content and driving exposure and driving engagement, something you can do is with your call to actions, you can have call to actions for people to comment on your post, a specific comment, right? That's a micro commitment. So that person saw your post, they thought it was valuable, they read your caption, and they commented, let's say it's a fire emoji. You said comment fire emoji if you agree, right? They comment a fire emoji, that's a micro commitment. So now if you go ahead and reach out to that person directly and you invite them to book a call with you, they're more obligated and they're more kind of susceptible to continuing that process and making additional commitments because they've already made one micro commitment. So we want to think about with our audience and with our marketing strategy, how can we create a scenario where people are taking micro commitments, right? That's why when you look at advertising campaigns on Facebook ads, people are asking for email and phone number and first name, last name in order to see the VSL or the training, right? Obviously, it's to capture that information from, a back-end perspective, but it's also a micro commitment that leads to more consistency later on. So if they're willing to put their email and phone number and their first name in that first page of that funnel in order to access the training, they're going to be more likely to then take the next step, which is another commitment, right? So if we start to look at our marketing strategy as micro commitments, how can we get somebody to make a micro commitment to stop what they're doing on social media to watch a video, then take the next micro commitment to follow our call to action, then take the next commitment to actually booking a call with us to learn more, right? Each stage of that is a micro commitment. So no matter how small the micro commitment is, human nature is susceptible to continue that consistency around that initial commitment. So commitment and consistency is the second weapon of influence. If you can implement that in marketing, getting people to comment a specific word or whatever the case may be, if they listen to you and do something that you told them to do, you have created authority in their head. In their head, they have followed you. They view you as a leader. Like I've said multiple times on these calls, 99% of the world is followers, not leaders. They're looking for somebody to lead them. So if we can lead them to the right path that brings them closer to our space and allows us to be able to create an opportunity to work with them, no matter how small the micro commitment is, they will continue that process. Now, number 3 in regards to the weapons of influence is social proof. Now, social proof is probably the most powerful form of influence in the world. And social proof is the fact that if you can provide validity around what you do, that shows people that people are in your coaching program, they're enjoying the process. If you use that in your marketing strategy, social proof is incredibly powerful because it creates the effect of, if that person can do it, so can I. And it creates the fear of missing out, right? The FOMO of like, wow, that person's getting great results. That person is, interesting, whatever. They provide amazing results. I'm looking at all these screenshots of all these people, all these wins, and they don't need to be like incredibly powerful wins. Like that's something I've realized in general is like, it doesn't, for like our offer, for instance, what we promote for social proof, it doesn't always need to be the coach that went from 0 to 100K or 0 to 20K. Like just simply posting screenshots of people that are having positive experiences will still lead to additional commitments, right? So as we continue this process and I get down this list of weapons of influence, you'll start to realize that each one plays into each other. And if you can use all of these at once, that's where you get somebody to commit. So with social proof, the different ways that you can leverage social proof are case studies, video testimonials, screenshots of messages from clients, screenshots of experiences, right? People that are like saluting you as a coach. If you can take screenshots of literally everything that people are putting out there and people are messaging you, leverage those and leverage those into the rest of the weapons of influence, right? So imagine if you created an Instagram story post flow or a Facebook story post flow that the first couple screenshots were social proof, right? So someone having a positive experience in your program, they're like, Roxanne's program's the best, like Alexis program's the best, and they're raving about it, whatever. And then the next piece gets into value where you're pushing out value. So you're creating that reciprocation of like, here's what I did to get these results for these people that you just saw. And then let's say you had a call to action at the end of that created a micro commitment for them to reach out to you. Now you've incorporated 3 of the 6 weapons of influence in order to drive results for your business, right? So social proof is probably the most powerful of the weapon of influences. And I know I've already said that about reciprocation. They're all extremely powerful, but social proof is like where it really stands out because that creates the like, if they can do it, I can do it effect. So we need to document as much positive experience in our program as possible. And honestly, like, this is something that me and Mike even need to take note of more, because a lot of times, like, there's always messages every single day and like in client channels for outreach and different situations like that of people saying like, this is amazing, another booked call, like another closed client, like all these different things. And sometimes we disregard it because it's happening so much that we kind of overlook it. But in reality, like, every single win in your program needs to be documented, and you need to leverage those wins to be able to actually create more business and show the validity of what you provide. So that's one thing you guys can take a note of, is how can I consistently document social proof in my program to make sure that every single time someone shows praise or shows a win, I have that documented. So one thing I recommend is just simply create a Google Drive folder of client wins. And every single time that a client sends something to you, screenshot it on your phone or your laptop, put it into that folder, and now you have a running folder of literally, it'll eventually be hundreds of screenshots of your program and people raving about it. And now you have a whole folder that every single day you could continuously post positive experiences of your program to then drive people to want to take that action. So that's the social proof piece. The fourth weapon of influence is liking, right? And liking, they talk in the book about the friendly thief, right? So it's like, if you can get someone to like you in all ways, they are much more likely to make a commitment with you. So this is important to think about with content and with sales again, because with content, what content does is it allows you to create a personality behind your brand, so that you're not just a coach. You're not just, Michael or Bradley or Alana. You're not just your name, but you're a human being behind the coaching brand, right? So how you create and that's kind of like that know, like, trust factor. How you create that is through transparency and through authenticity. So if you can continuously create content that humanizes yourself as that humanized expert, instead of just trying to put yourself on a pedestal and look like this, untouchable person. Like, if you guys saw my Instagram story today, you guys, like, a lot of you guys know that there's a lot of stuff that's been going on in my personal life. So today on my story, I gave value about what was going on in my life, that the situation was tough. And I also provided value around, hey, look, if you're going through a situation like this, here's something that's really helped me out, right? So instead of me just being like, oh yeah, like, if you're, going through tough times, you should do X, Y, and Z, I kind of I didn't say too much, but I provided a little bit of background of like, yeah, this transition's been tough. Like, it hasn't been easy. There's been a lot of emotions, but here's what I've been doing to get through it, right? So with that transparency, people build trust around that. People build around that, because it's like, wow, this person's a human being. They're not just trying to leverage themselves as this standout, person that's untouchable. So creating content around that authenticity is how you create that like factor through your marketing. And then through sales, if people don't know, like, trust you, they won't buy from you, right? And we've noticed this recently with our sales team, because we brought in a new sales rep who's a really good friend of mine that has tons of experience. And he is absolutely incredible at creating relationship that leads to conversions. And you can almost see night and day. He literally has taken like one sales call for us, and you can see night and day the comparison between him and like previous sales reps that we've had in the past, just because he spends so much time creating that like factor. He gets people to like trust him and like him, like really enjoy spending time with him on a phone call. So if you can create that in your sales process to the point where like you're just you're not this person that's like trying to create authority and trying to like look like this person that's on a pedestal on a sales call that you need to buy from. Like, a lot of times we can put on personas in sales situations because we think that we need to in order to get somebody to see us as the expert. When in reality, it's not about that. It's creating the relationship and the likability to get someone to say, I just like spending time with this person, so I need to purchase from them because I just need to be around them. Like, if you can create that in the sales process, that's where you create results. Like, that's where you close a lot of deals, is like, I just enjoyed this person's time so much, and like, they care about me, they understand me, they actually want to listen. So I'm going to work with them because they're going to serve me at a high level. So that's how you leverage that likability within the weapons of influence to drive results. Now, the next piece of weapon of influence is authority. And authority is one that I was just kind of talking shit about, but you can create authority in a moral way. You don't have to create authority by trying to stand on a pedestal and act like you're untouchable. You can create authority through value, through connection, right? Through experience. And a lot of how you create authority in the coaching industry is by walking the walk, right? By being someone who you can speak from experience to your audience, instead of just being someone who is like, hey, here's what you need to do, here's what you need to do, here's what you need to do. Being able to say, hey, look, like, you know, let's say a random, you know, example of like a life coach who, let's say it's a life coach that's a divorce coach and they went through a divorce previously. Like, being able to sit on a video through content and say, yeah, I mean, I went through some of the darkest times in my life when I went through my divorce. And that's why I can stand here today and walk women through this same path, is because, you know, I've walked the path and I've come out on the other side and lived 10 times of a better life after my divorce than before it, right? So now what I've done by saying that is I've created this relatability, which created likability, right? Just with those sentences, I created likability for my audience because they're looking at me and they're saying like, wow, this person understands because they've been through it, right? So that transparency created the likability. And then for me to say like, my life is 10 times better after my divorce than before my divorce, now I just created authority without trying to say, you know, I'm better than you, or I'm higher than you, or I'm this, like, I'm on a pedestal. It's just simply having the authority around, like, I've been through what you've been through and I've come out on the other side stronger and I can show you how. Right? So authority doesn't always have to be this this thing where we're trying to create this like credibility or this, you know, like pedestal opportunity for ourselves to look like this huge expert. Authority is just about simply showing people that we've walked the path and we already have come out on the other side more powerful in whatever way, and we can help you do the same thing, right? That's how we create the authority without having to, you know, be like flexing all the time. Like, that's not what authority is. Authority isn't like, I stand above you on this pedestal. Authority is, I've walked the path and I've come out on the other side and I can show you how. The last piece of the weapons of influence are scarcity. And scarcity is something we've talked about a few times in this program. But basically, scarcity comes down to, if there's a lack of something, right? If the supply is low, the demand will be high, right? That's basic economics. Low supply, high demand. That's why NFTs are selling for $40,000 online, because there's a limited amount of them and people want them. That's why Yu-Gi-Oh cards are friggin', you know, Pokemon cards are like $5,000 for random cards nowadays. Because they don't make them anymore. So the scarcity is driving the value of these things up, right? So a simple way you can build scarcity through marketing is when you're doing your call to actions, and it's a direct call to action to your program, have a limited amount of spots attached to that. Me and Mike used to do this all the time when we ran our marketing agency for Instagram marketing. It was ridiculous. It's like, literally every day we would post like, hey, we have this new promotion coming up. You know, we only have 3 spots available. Act fast. It was like literally the worst marketing ever, but it drove such big results because people were like, oh my God, there's only 3 spots left. I can afford that. I'll pay it. And like, we used to have opportunities where we'd close like $10,000 deals, $5,000 deals without ever hopping on a sales call for that business, just because the scarcity was so strong that people just jumped on it, and it was something that people needed. So like that product was very easy to sell. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen to all of us, but it proves the fact that scarcity is a very strong weapon of influence. Like if you can build urgency around a lack of spots available or a lack of clients that you can onboard on a monthly basis or a weekly basis, people will be more inclined to reach out. And like what I'll also say attached to that is don't do it in like a kind of like scummy way, right? Like it doesn't have to be this like drive it down your throat. I've only got 3 spots available. You need to take action now or else you'll never have access to it. Like it doesn't have to be that. It can be subtle, you know, like DM me the word, you know, energy to go on this healing journey. By the way, we've only got 3 more spots available for the rest of this month. Something like that, right? Like simple. But when someone sees that and they see the scarcity of opportunity to be able to take advantage of it, it increases the amount of probability that they actually reach out because they see it as something that's going to be taken away. We actually used to do this in, I feel like it was, I don't even know if it was the marketing agency or if it was early on in our coaching business, but we used to do something where like if action wasn't taken in a certain amount of time, we would actually like pull the opportunity away from somebody and say like, oh, people already took the spot, you know, like it's already filled up. And then people would be like, wait, like I was going to buy that shit right now. And then we'd be like, all right, dude, like you got to pay right now or else like we're not going to be able to have it available anymore. And that scarcity of like taking an opportunity away from somebody actually drove more interest and more commitment because they were like, oh shit, like I just lost that and I wanted it. And like I was just kind of playing games for a couple minutes, but now I really want it and it's not available anymore, right? So there's different ways that you can use scarcity, but overall for a coaching business, the main way to use it is by being real about it, right? Like a lot of you guys right now, you're in the phase that you're growing a one-on-one coaching offer right now, and you're hoping to get into the group coaching space soon. And if you have a one-on-one coaching offer, the fact of the matter is you don't have endless opportunity for people to work with you. Like you can only work with a certain amount of clients at a one-on-one offer. So you have real scarcity, like being able to say, I can only take 3 more one-on-one clients, and then I'll be opening up a group coaching offer or something like that. That's real. That's something that's like actually true scarcity. So leveraging those opportunities to create more influence is super important to be able to drive results. So I'm going to take a quick second to jot down these weapons of influence into the group for you guys, just in case you didn't take notes today. But I also want to open up in the meantime questions. So if you have any questions based off of what we talked about today or in general, send a message into the Automated Coaching Engine channel and we'll call on you guys to get started on Q&A. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and start to type them in the Automated Coaching Engine channel while I'm typing this out, and we'll get rolling on those questions. Mike, did you have anything you wanted to add to that as well?
No, but yes. Everything I think was covered perfectly, but just a couple of things that I was, kind of thinking about as you were talking. Back on the topic of commitment and consistency, going back into kind of like what we talk about as far as like outreach strategies, as far as messaging, this is like the exact reason that we don't lay it all out, in the first round. That's why we take the route of like, hey, would something like this be worth 15 minutes of your time? Then we manually book them instead of just saying, if it's worth your time, book a call here, click this link. It's not only is it less tension, but it's creating those micro wins. All they got to do is say, yes, it is worth 15 minutes of my time. Then we move into, all right, cool, this time or this time, which one works best for you? So that commitment consistency as far as creating small wins, micro commitments, I think is really important, honestly, at every stage of, a coaching business. And, as you grow, as you get more traffic coming into your business, this is when you can start to limit it and be a little bit more direct to get the bigger win, the bigger commitment. And then on the topic of social proof, when we had, Brandberry fully running as far as the agency side of things, our website like literally, just was pretty much like, hey, we help, brands, build authority online. There was nothing else explaining it. It was just an assload of testimonials. And anytime anybody had any questions about what we did, I would just send them the link and they would just be like, okay, cool, let's chat, and it's that social proof, like that authority that like, hey, we've done this, for tons of other people, we can do the same thing for you. On the topic of liking, being a human is really important, I think, on social media in general. And this is oftentimes why I say, when people ask about, should I do a business account or should I do a personal account? Should I do a brand named account or should I make it like at Mike Pugliese? And I always tell people, create a profile around yourself. Number one, because yourself is always going to be yourself. And, brand names change, businesses change, businesses flunk and you start a new one. A lot of shit changes with that, but your personal brand will never change. And not to mention, people like people better than, people like businesses. People connect with people better than people connect with businesses. And on the topic of scarcity, I just want to provide an example for that as far as like how we leverage that. That was like very early in when we started in the coaching side of things. And we were just trying to see if people would even be kind of like interested into it. And I got the idea actually from Andy Frisella because he does this with his coaching program, Arete Syndicate, where, number one, the enrollment is like always closed. So you pretty much like have to like submit your email address to like, express any type of interest in joining. And pretty much like what happens is they shoot you an application and they basically say like, hey, if you fill this out, we'll like, if it's a good fit, we'll reach out to you when enrollment opens back up. You fill out the application, then they email you like 2 or 3 days later, hey, we got a spot open for you, do you want it? Then like 24 hours later, take it away. So we use that same strategy as far as booking calls in the past, through our automation, because what we were doing is we were driving traffic to a free mini course and we were essentially building the value ladder that way. And that's kind of why we use the scarcity. But I think like, scarcity can be on all levels, just like we were talking about, just like Mike was talking about, as far as, the biggest thing that I think is, it's offering something, then taking it away, then giving them like that last chance of commitment. But yeah, no, I mean, other than that, I mean, like I said, very well, very well, broken down. I took a lot of notes from that too, just on, things that we can do internally based on this. So yeah, I think it's clear to go into questions.
Perfect. I don't see any questions dropped in there yet. Does anybody have any questions, or everything clear for the most part? Cool. Looks to be relatively clear.
Crystal.
Awesome. Well, sounds good. I guess if there's no questions, then we'll bounce out a little bit early today. Tomorrow we have the Q&A session at the same time as today's call. So 1 p.m. EST will be the call for tomorrow. If you guys have any questions, anything that you want to jam on tomorrow, feel free to tap into that call and we'll answer anything that you guys need. If it's just like not coming to your mind right now, no worries. Appreciate you guys all hopping on today. If you need anything, reach out and we'll touch base. Hope you guys have a great rest of the day.